Hey everybody, what's going on? It is once again Twin Peaks time. This time we're going to discuss episode 6, which is officially titled Cooper's Dreams. So let's get started. We start off with Dale waking up in the middle of the night to a pretty awful racket. Ends up that a new investment group is here from Iceland. So they went from Norway to Iceland that are potentially interested in the Ghostwood project. So Ben's trying again to get that that investment money. Apparently they're party animals and they have some drinking songs that are, fine if you're drunk, but if you're trying to get a good night's sleep, probably pretty miserable to endure. Audrey comes down and flirts again and offers her services to Dale, as she's now, a junior detective, at least in her own mind. And apparently Ben and Brother Jerry are actual foodies, meaning they are very enthusiastic about food. Leland arrives, still distraught. Not much has changed there. And when Ben suggests that he take a vacation or take Sarah on a trip and get away from the place for a while, he says, "I'm afraid to, Ben. I'm afraid." It's kind of a strange thing to say, and something we haven't heard from him prior to this, so what's going on? Jacques Renault is nowhere to be found at the apartment. Dale and crew are investigating. We find out that the blood on the shirt from Leo's that Bobby planted is blood type AB negative, and this is not Laura Palmer's blood type. So that changes things a bit. Dale out of the blue says, "So it was Jacques Renault's blood on Leo Johnson's shirt," which, Harry and Doc are like, huh? How did you figure that out? And then Doc gets off the phone and with someone from the lab and confirms that it indeed is AB negative, so it is apparently Jacques Renault's blood. So something happened between him and Leo, and that resulted in some loss of blood. Apparently now there's an APB out for Leo, so he's still a suspect. And Dale finds a copy of a magazine called Flesh World, Ooh La La, hidden above a ceiling light. And apparently people write into this magazine, and these like classifieds or advertisements, and they're forwarded on to the advertisers. Basically, like a woman could advertise her services via the magazine, and Johns would be able to get in contact with her indirectly. And apparently both Ronette and Laura have appeared in this magazine in advertisements. So more evidence that something a little bit, let's say, kinky was going on the side. So more evidence that Laura was up to some stuff that may or may not be related to what happened to her in the end. Leo's 18-wheeler is in one of the photos, so obviously he's not the brightest, and that tips them off that he still has a part to play in all of this. We come over to Leo's place, and Bobby and Shelley are playing house, boring. Andy shows up, and Shelley gives him a practiced response, and while Bobby hides out, saying that Leo and Jacques were arguing about Laura earlier. Andy's, of course, as gullible as can be, so he buys it and leaves. Leo calls and inquires about whether or not someone came by the house. So apparently he's on the lookout for law enforcement, potentially, and is he's hiding out. So what is he up to? We know he's got some plans for setting fire to the mill, in a couple days. Ed's working on a car over at his garage. It's a classic, good looking car. Apparently Nadine is trying to patent her silent drape runner concept, thinking she's going to become a millionaire many times over. Norma breaks the bad news to Ed that Hank's getting his parole. Apparently they're still not able to, I guess you could say, get over the fear of divorcing their current significant others and getting together. So that's still up in the air. Audrey goes to Horn's department store to interview with Emery Battis, who we'll see later on. Who's, judge this book by its cover. Let's just say he's not exactly the most savory type, and makes it to herself clear in no uncertain terms that she will be working at the perfume counter, or else. Audrey, what are you up to? You know where the perfume counter leads, so is she going to get in over her head? We'll have to find out about that. Yeah, Jay meets up with Donna and admits some information about his past, that he had a deadbeat dad and his mother's an alcoholic. It does add some complexity to his character, but it's not that pertinent to the story. It's just developing their relationship. He does say something kind of profound for a biker, though. It says it's the secrets people keep that destroy any chance at happiness. So obviously he's referring to his relationship with Laura and how that was a bit tumultuous. And then again, they bring up the need to solve this so that they can have closure, and that they feel that Laura is not at peace yet. She's kind of wandering out there. Not able to rest. So that's, I'm assuming that's in the figurative sense, since we've never been given any hint that either of these two are connected to the paranormal, the psychic in any way. Donuts all around as they continue to investigate the apartment. Forensics is dusting for fingerprints. Dale sees a photo taped up to the inside of a cabinet and sees a cabin with red drapes. We see in an ad then after that in Flesh World that Laura's in, which has those same red drapes. Where have we seen those before? Remember in Dale's dream at the Black Lodge, there was plenty of red drapes. So we have another clue from the dream that has been confirmed in the waking world. So, that dream is quite prophetic, to say the least. Maddy Ferguson shows up at the Double R and meets Donna for the first time, and they fill her in kind of in what the current situation is with Laura, and that they're going to do whatever they can to find the killer, so they're going to include her in their scheme. Donna mentions a secret hiding place Laura mentioned to her, and asks Maddy to take a look and see if she can find it, see if there's anything there evidence-wise that might lead them to the next step in their investigation. Maddy mentions that she felt that Laura was in trouble before she died, and given the Palmer family's psychic sensitivity, you could say, she may have actually had a vision herself, or that she may be describing something literal. Then the refugee beauty queens arrive. Not exactly a hairstyle that's in vogue still, especially in the 1990s. And Hank's there. Hank basically establishes that he knows Leo, which isn't too surprising. Basically criminals of a feather flock together. And remember, never cross Montana. At least in the Invitation to Love world, he slaps old poor Chet around a little bit. Okay, and this scene we've got coming up is pretty important. It reveals a lot. It's one of the highlights of the whole episode, as far as I'm concerned. And the Briggs pay Dr. Jacobi a visit because Major Briggs and his wife are kind of at a loss of what to do with angsty Bobby and his attitude issues right now. But Jacobi wants to talk to Bobby on his own, and doesn't really beat around the bush when it comes to getting right to the heart of the situation, and straight up asks him if Bobby cried after he made love to Laura for the first time, which Bobby's not he's not too happy about that being brought up, I guess. And he asks him, Jacobi asks him if she laughed at him afterwards. Apparently this hits home, so Maybe Laura mentioned this in one of her tapes that she gave Jacobi, or he just gleaned it and took a wild stab at it and hit the nail on the head. Jacobi inquires if he was sad or whatnot when Laura died, and Bobby's reaction is it's kind of hard to read. He doesn't say one way or the other, and his face is kind of it's hard to read. So maybe, he mentions that he kind of knew that she wanted to die, so maybe it was he wasn't surprised. Well, he was, but he wasn't. So maybe he was kind of prepared for the worst. And we get some great insight into what was going on in Laura's mind in this scene, and the dialogue was written very well. The descriptions are very good. They add a lot of depth to what was going on with Laura, and yeah, so it's good stuff. Basically, she, according to Bobby, considered people to be frauds, good on the surface, but really rotten and, no good at the core. And maybe she's describing, again, we're bringing back this this theme that I'll harp on, probably a few times more, about the what you see on the surface in polite society is usually a mask for something that's a little darker beneath. And this can go, be applied anywhere. It's not just small town America. But like I said, this is a theme that Lynch hits on in this and at least one of his other movies. So it's always worth bringing up every once in a while. And Laura admitted to him that she, of all people, was the worst. She judged these other people, but she still admits that, she was worse than the rest of them. And she basically, his view, or from what Bobby's view, from what she told him, is that she was always struggling to try to do good, but at times something within her would creep up or emerge, something dark and evil perhaps, would creep up and pull her back down into hell, according to his words, taking her deeper and deeper into the blackest nightmare. So yeah, for a high school prom queen, you don't usually hear that kind of description and of words and language used. So obviously she was experiencing some things that were pretty dark, to say the least, and to use that kind of terminology, I would say. Yeah, and basically as time went on, it became harder and harder for her to return back to that desire to do good in the world. So I'm assuming that was, as the time passed and we came closer and closer to the night that she finally died or was killed, that evil, that presence within her was returning more and more often, and it was just, and she was struggling against it, but it was a losing battle, apparently, according to what Bobby's saying. And both Dr. Jacobi and Bobby agree that there was something terrible that she was hiding, that was so horrible, that, that from whatever it was, that she wanted to die because of it. And remember, Laura was still, the psychically sensitive like her mother, so we don't know for sure if this is something that was happening in the literal sense, in the physical waking world, if it was something that was happening in the subconscious, in the dream world, literally in the dream, dream world that we saw Cooper in, or a mix of both. So yeah, something seriously deep was going on, and it drove her to the point where she wanted to die, according to Bobby. And Jacobi continues on. I am assuming this is from what he's gleaned from his time with Laura, but he asked him if it was something that drove her, that something inside her, that secret that she was hiding drove her to prey upon other people and manipulate them and degrade them, to basically make them mirror how she felt about herself. Because that's, that's, another example of this I don't know if you would call it this presence or this something within her that was driving her to, to the dark side, or however you'd like to call it. And then at the end, Bobby reveals that Laura convinced him to sell drugs. He says she made him. She probably manipulated him one way or the other to start, like I said, start selling cocaine. And we know that she was addicted to it. So it was obviously he sells the cocaine. She's got a free, supply. And like I said, she was like, Jacobi mentioned about the drug use, that she was basically self-medicating with it, and that it was a positive sign. So she was maybe what was going on inside her, she was trying to combat by doing cocaine. Like I said, I've never taken cocaine, so I don't know exactly how that would work. All I know is it really apparently it really amps you up. So maybe she wanted to stay awake, didn't want to fall asleep. It's hard to say. So yeah, a lot of great revelations here. This scene is very important and done extremely well. So yeah, kudos to those guys for pulling off a really good scene. All right, now we're back with Dale and crew taking a bit of a hike in the woods. I do believe that the location shot for this scene is in California. I don't believe it's in Washington State, if I remember looking at some of the Wikipedia stuff. So yeah, that's what I'm pretty sure. California, sunny California. Yeah, it's time to get to know the log lady, who talks very cryptically. So get used to her way of conversing with people. And again, we see that she's another person in Twin Peaks with an affinity for the paranormal. She's not nuts. Let's just say she does have a log that she carries around, but yeah, she's not crazy. At least, well, and maybe a little bit, but she's not pulling a charade or something. And she does mention that the owls will not see them in her house. And we can look back to recently, there was an owl that was taking a peep at James and Donna when they were looking for that necklace piece that Sarah mentioned that somebody had taken. So, and it was just kind of an abrupt shot up to the owl. So there was some significance there. And now we see owls mentioned as spying on people or so. What's with the owls? She tells him that she expected them a couple days ago, so maybe she too had a vision or an intuition about it. Maybe her log told her. She mentions that her husband died in a fire and that he met the devil, which she describes as, the devil is a coward hiding in the smoke. So yeah. Hawk mentions or asks her, or I don't know if it's rhetorical, there are many spirits in the woods, aren't there, Margaret? And remember what Harry mentioned about the presence in the woods, and she lives in the middle of the woods apparently, so she's definitely surrounded by whatever potentially is out there. So it's good to keep that in mind. She translates for her log, basically in short, one or two word sentences. She might actually be just seeing flashes of pictures in her mind as she's describing it. So she says, dark, laughing, the owls were flying, 2 men, 2 girls, flashlights passed by, the owls were near. The dark was pressing in on her. Quiet, then footsteps. 1 man passed by, then screams. 1 voice, a girl's, further up over the ridge. The owls were silent. So the owls, again, were flying and they were observing. So again, the owls are becoming more and more important as as we go by. So we know that Laura, Ronette, Jacques, and Leo were probably 4 of the 5 that were there. We've kind of established that, but there was a 3rd mystery man. And who might that be? We'll have to continue on and see if we can find that out. Dale and crew continue on. Eventually they come upon a cabin and it's the one that Dale saw in the photo at Jacques with the red curtains. We hear singing, and it ends up just being a record being played. It's the same voice of the gal. If you remember the Roadhouse, I think in the first episode where that blonde in the red dress is singing up on stage, it's the same gal. She's a talent that David Lynch found, and I think he produced her album. I don't know if he was her manager, and I believe he wrote all the lyrics to all the songs that she sings. She's got a very lovely voice, to say the least. And yeah, it's a record. And then Dale, again, from his dream, something Laura mentioned in it, and there's always music in the air. So another dream clue confirmed. Where's Waldo? There he is. We see our friend Waldo the bird, so we've located him. Then a cuckoo clock, the time strikes some hour, and then a compartment on the cuckoo clock opens up, and lo and behold, there's that poker chip that Albert was able to reconstruct from that piece in Laura's stomach. So there we go. Now we've got that other part of the evidence. Yeah, at the Great Northern, we're back over there in Twin Peaks. They're holding a party for the Icelanders. It's nothing, as far as the case goes, it's anything all that important going on. Just a little banter, a little humor. Catherine, remember, she found a chip that fell out of Ben's pocket when he was going to bathe with little Elvis, or give little Elvis a bath. So yeah, she apparently was not overly enthusiastic about finding this, because she knows what it means. And she's probably aware of One-Eyed Jackson, that Ben probably goes up there for a little hanky-panky. So she pours some champagne on his shoe to let him know that she ain't too happy. Audrey decides to spy on him. Catherine slaps Ben a few times, and then they start making out. Catherine is apparently hot to trot when it comes to burning the mill down. Ben wants to give Josie a chance to sign, something we were not privy to until now, so apparently Ben and Josie have been talking about it as well, so the mill burning down is apparently a plan B. Audrey witnesses this conversation. There's a lot of damning evidence that was spoken about, but I mean, she probably is not able, unless she's been spying on him constantly, to connect all the dots at this point. And apparently Catherine forgot to brush her teeth because Ben offers her a mint. Leland shows up again, and takes a page from old Billy Idol, starting to, dancing with himself. Audrey's off to the side crying about something. We saw when she pulled the little wooden plate thing that blocks that peephole that she was kind of laughing, and now she's crying for some reason, not quite sure. We see a shadowy figure smoking in Ben's office. Pretty obvious that it's Josie. They're not really trying to hide that. Over at the Palmers, Maddy finds something, sneaks downstairs to call Donna. She's got a cassette from found in Laura's room. We know that Laura was sending Dr. Jacobi cassettes. I don't know, if checking in on letting him know how, or what's on her mind or whatever. So that like I said, we may find out some interesting information from that cassette. But of course, we'll have to wait till the next episode. Ben meets up with Josie eventually in his office. Apparently tipped her off to an alternate location where Catherine hides those ledgers. Josie mentions that. And looks like there may be a double cross in the works with old Ben. Catherine may not be, she was unhappy about finding the poker chip. She's surely going to be happy about this. Leo returns home. Looks like he's got some gasoline cans full, ready for the big night. And old Hank shows up and kicks the crap out of him. So apparently Hank's the outranks Leo in the when it comes to the little drug trade they got going on, and wasn't too happy that Leo decided to get a little too ambitious. So Hank's reminding him to stay to his position. Puts him in his place. Know his role. Leo comes in, shoves Shelly. Shelly decides she's had enough and shoots him. I don't know if it was deadly or not. We'll have to find out in the next episode. And to wrap up the episode, Dale heads back to his room. Somebody's in there. He goes in, and lo and behold, there's Audrey, sans clothing, waiting in his bed. So she apparently got upset from whatever that was, and then decided to disrobe and get in bed. Yeah, jail. Just remember, that's jail bait. Just say no. So yeah, a heck of a lot going on. A lot of revelations. Like I said, at the between Dr. Jacobi and Bobby Briggs, we get a whole bunch more clues confirmed from the dream in the Black Lodge that Dale had. And yeah, and we've got a little bit of a teaser for the next episode with the cassette that Maddy found in Laura's room. So overall, it's a solid episode. And I think that'll about do it for this one. I don't want to continue on too much, creeping up on the 30-minute mark. But like I said, these episodes are so chock full of information that's worth going over. That I still got my cheat sheet there, so I'm just following it. But sometimes it's just a lot of stuff to go over. But people seem to be liking the reviews so far, getting some thumbs up, so I appreciate that. And like I said in my little status update, I'm going to try to get the remaining 2 episodes from the first season taken care of. We'll get our little cliffhanger from season 8. Then I'll probably do... I may or may not do a review of the prequel movie, just because the extended version, which I have, is really long. And I want to spend some time... getting the reviews all set up, but it also that I think about it, is I'm probably gonna have to delay it anyway, because I don't want to spoil the rest of the case. I was just gonna do I don't know what I was going to do initially. If I was just going to do an overview like I did with the TV episode, that's basically all I could do, because like I said, we aren't at the end of the case, the first case where we find killer, obviously. So yeah, I might get that done, but that just to have it done for to post it. So hopefully I didn't like I said, confuse anybody by making it seem like I was going to post the actual review of the prequel movie, because that would have just spoiled everything for you, and that would have been kind of a dick move on my part. No, I should retype that out, or I guess you guys will listen to it and realize it. But yeah, I'll be waiting until the first case is closed before I post that. Don't want to spoil it and shoot myself in the foot, obviously. But yeah, I'll have the episode 7 and 8 out within the next couple of days. Until then, everybody, take care. Hope you're doing well, and we'll see you next time. Take it easy.